Welcome to Beneath the Surface podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Bortz, the Millennial Rabbi. Join me as we talk to high-impact people around the world, discovering deep, meaningful ways to live life beneath the surface. Should I eat that? 30 million Americans suffer from an eating disorder. 90% of them don't receive treatment, and it has the highest mortality rate of all mental illnesses. Liana Rosenman is the co-founder and chief communications officer of Project Heal, an organization that helps people suffering with eating disorders pay for treatment. She was named a 2017 Forbes 30 Under 30 social entrepreneur. She was appointed the Daily Light Award and has been profiled in the New York Times, Fast Company, and People magazine. Hi, Liana. Welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Can you, just to start off, could you tell us a little bit about, I read a crazy statistic that I think I heard you say on a video that there was 30 million Americans suffer from an eating disorder, 90% don't ever receive treatment, and it also has the highest mortality rate of all mental illnesses, which to me was quite shocking. But you personally, what made you or pushed you to want to start Project Heal?
Sure. Yes, those statistics are definitely frightening, and there's actually not that many real stats on eating disorders just because the research is so far behind, and it's just not getting the awareness that, or people aren't realizing how serious they are. So I guess that kind of plays into why I started Project Heal, but to give you a little bit more, I was diagnosed with anorexia when I was 12 years old. I struggled for a number of years, went to treatment, so I was inpatient for about a month in a hospital, and struggled for a few years after I was released. But I met my co-founder in treatment, which was the best thing that came out of that experience, because we really did push each other to reach a full recovery, and I wouldn't be where I am today without her. And our friendship was really recovery oriented. We pushed each other, and we would go out on different meal supports and would challenge each other. And during these challenges, we had conversations that kept coming back to these same things of, one, there was never this idea that full recovery from an eating disorder was possible. There was never this picture of a person or someone you can follow on social media that was telling their story and not hiding behind it. And that we wanted to see someone that's made it through. That was one thing that was really lacking when we were going through it. The other thing was Christina and I were fortunate that our insurance covered treatment, and what it didn't, our parents could afford. But there were so many more people that were so motivated, but were turned away because they couldn't afford it. And that's just so disheartening, because it's you finally are ready to get better, and the only thing that's standing in your way is the finances. And it takes a lot of hard work to even get to a place where you're I want help. And when you're asking for it, you're turned away because your insurance company is saying no. It's just really awful.
Wow.
So with those things in mind, we were in 11th grade in high school. We were very naive. We're let's do something about it. We started Project Heal in 2008, and here we are 10 years later.
Wow. And 10 years later, can you give us a little scope of where you're at in terms of your reach and what you're creating? And
of course. So in the last, I would say, 8 years, our primary mission was to provide treatment grants to those who can't afford it. And what that means is we have an application on our website, and we get about 500 applications a year of people seeking help and wanting treatment. To date, we've sent over 100 people to treatment, and they have gone on to do incredible things and regain their lives, so much that 2 of them actually just had babies, which is just incredible to be a part of. Not only did they regain their lives, but also brought new lives into the. And there's been marriages and college graduations, and just incredible things have come out of our treatment grant program.
Wow.
We've also, since the beginning of Project Heal, we had 40 chapters across the United States, and then we have 15 national ambassadors internationally, and all this happened organically, and we did not have a staff member at this point. So it was just so grassroots, but just spread so quickly. I would say in the last 2 years, we've definitely seen our growth and realize that we can be doing so much more.
Mm.
Uh, we had one fundraiser that raised $500,000 in one night, and that was just like game changing for us because we are broadening our mission to not only help individuals but help local communities. So we've expanded our mission to be Project Heal provides access to healing to people with eating disorders. And we do this now through our another program we created called Communities of Healing, which is the first peer-to-peer support model for people with eating disorders. So you're paired with a mentor who's been through an eating disorder and recovered, who is there to support you once a week in a peer-to-peer mentorship. And then there's a support group that's open for the peer mentors and open to the general public for people to get free treatment in their area. And it's right now in 5 cities, but we're hoping to expand globally.
Amazing. I mean, clearly you struck a chord with people. It's obviously something that a lot of people must be going through if it's, gone this far and so quickly. Can you give us a bigger scope and understanding of the problem? Like when I first started thinking of what caused an eating disorder, I immediately thought of simply maybe there's like pressure to look better or insecurity or not feeling comfortable in how you look. But I also heard from some people that and some research that it can also be maybe like it can come from all types of symptoms. Maybe it's a way to control something in your life, or some are perfectionists. Some have there's so many different symptoms and causes that it could cause. Can you give us an idea of what you found so far, and maybe and how it affects the lives of those that are going through it?
Definitely. I think that's what it is people think of this as a thin, like white rich girl's disease. And like, honestly, I fell into that trap when I first got diagnosed. I was like, I don't have an eating disorder. I eat. And like that misconception in alone, it's very dangerous. Eating disorders can affect anyone at any shape, size, ethnicity, gender. They don't discriminate. And it can be your mother, it could be your brother, it could be your sister, your uncle, your grandfather. Like anyone can have an eating disorder. And it's not about the food, the weight. Yes, like that's what it looks like to the outside world, but it is, like you said, it's about control. There's a lot of genetic dispositions of people with eating disorders, like that type A personality, OCD, anxiety, depression, those things that run in a family, that they are sparked by people first going on a diet. And that's like, yes, that's the cause of it is, and it just spirals out of control, that someone without those genetic underpinnings, like they
Mm.
might have the same reaction. But there's a lot of different reasons why people develop an eating disorder. Again, it's not a choice. It's just
Yeah.
something.
Is it something that's gone up in terms of, like, if we say it's a cultural thing, not just a genetic thing, then I wonder if, social media wise, the amount of access we have to comparison of, like, the perfect, I was reading a statistic. It said that today's average models weigh 23% less than the average woman. So like if the average woman it says 5'4" and 145 pounds, so models 5'10", 110 pounds. And I also read that we see over 1 million ads a year. So even if it's like subconscious, clearly it's just repetitive, like, idea of what culturally is like perfection or what is something to strive to. Do you have statistics gone up in the last, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years, or it's kind of something that you think transcends maybe, culture, social media? We've always had it, and it's something that will always kind of be the same level.
I think there's definitely been an increase of diagnoses. I also think there has been an increase of awareness, and I think we are in a place where there is less shame and less stigma about eating disorders, so more people are seeking the help that
Mm,
they need.
that's good.
But yeah, the media, it's very tricky. They don't, again, cause eating disorders, but for me, I
Sure.
know my bat mitzvah theme was Liana's magazine stand because I was obsessed with celebrities and comparing myself to them and wanting to be them, where a lot of these celebrities struggle. I mean, they're human.
Yeah.
And through very similar things, but it's not something that is usually shown.
Someone was actually heaping some praise on the Kardashians that they kind of made famous the fact that you don't have to be skinny, 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 which I thought was interesting. They're actually promoting some good in the cultures.
Not too much though, because they did just make really negative comments. Well, Kim did like a week ago on her Instagram story, and there's been a lot of media coverage about it, which is great
Interesting.
because she was like promoting eating disorders, and everyone was like, "This is so inappropriate," which is like something that I feel like 5, 6 years ago would have been kind of like created as a meme, and people would be laughing about it, whereas now
Mm,
people are really seeing the seriousness behind eating disorders.
that's great. It's funny that you were talking about how it can affect all shapes, sizes, genders, identities. You know, my personally, like I grew up Southern California. Everyone's got their shirts off a lot of the day or a lot of the year, and like even as a guy, you know, a lot of people probably don't expect that guys will have any type of self-conscious level as, and I think it's true that women have a higher rate of this, right? But um, I definitely think it applies in terms of body image and like being self-conscious, big time when it comes to guys as well. I wonder if it actually manifests itself into, you know, eating disorders or um, it's more of just a self-conscious thing. But it's definitely there. Have you found that it's affecting men as well in similar numbers or?
I think it's like an 80-20 where
Okay.
20 sufferers are male. I think that number is a lot higher. I think there's stigma against men seeking help. I think the eating disorder community has been really focusing on providing treatment and getting the message out there that it's okay and that there is help and access. There's one treatment center in particular that only treats males, which I think is really, really incredible.
Hmm.
But yeah, it definitely affects everyone individually. I think males have this pressure that looks differently for females than males, but they still feel it. And a lot of times, there are a lot of male athletes that are suffering. There was
Hmm.
actually just a huge baseball player that just quit Major League Baseball and has become a spokesperson for the National Eating Disorder Association.
Hmm.
Uh, it is so important. And I think like that's game changing. Like a male face of the eating disorder and a survivor.
Yeah.
Uh, I think these are the steps that we need for males to seek treatment. I think that we will see more people and more stories coming out. When I was in treatment, there were 4 males. One was 8, which is like
Wow.
shocking, but it's not uncommon.
It's so crazy when you say that because I was watching a video on YouTube recently and it was one of these like beauty companies where they try to promote, I guess they were interviewing 6 years old to 18-year-old girls just about just what is beauty. I think that was the question. It wasn't about skinniness. It was just about beauty in general. But to see like 7-year-olds be like, I don't know if I look as good as people in my like it was like they were very self-aware and self-conscious already at that age. I was like, wow, like it's a bit early to be worrying about, you know, your looks. And we place a big emphasis on our outer, I guess our outer appearance in general when I mean, in my humble opinion, the inner character is what's the most attractive thing about a person. I think most people will say at the end of the day that it's how much a person's developed internally that you feel attracted to that to connect to that person more. The outer side might be the initial thing you see. Of course, it's the first thing you see, but it's not what lasts. It's almost like, do you think we need kind of like a, I don't know, a re-education or a rebranding of just life in general, the way we look at people?
Especially young kids, because at that age, that's kind of the messages they're getting from like, oh my God, she's so cute. Like, look how she's dressed,
Mm,
wearing. Like,
true.
it's from the time that we're young, it's that prettiness and cuteness and petite. Like, that's what people will comment about and give you compliments. And that's not
Right.
helpful. Um, I'm also a teacher, so like I see this every day of these kids comparing themselves to others and feeling really bad about themselves. And I think like social media doesn't help. In some ways, I think social media is helpful, but there are definitely flaws to it. But yeah, I think that people need to realize that looks don't get you anywhere. It's your character. And yeah, you could be like the prettiest person in the room, but then you can start talking and all goes away because you have nothing nice to say,
Right.
and that doesn't get you far in life.
It unfortunately can get you places, you know. You
And
know,
that's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, I know people that their looks have done them, but like, you can't feel good about that. Like,
that, yeah,
uh, an insecure in a way that like I'm I'm confident with who I am, and like I think that is beauty when you're confident with who you are and
yeah.
embrace your flaws and your insecurities. And like I always tell people, like okay, so I'm like a Forbes 30 under 30, and yeah,
What?
but I'm also a huge dork and like would rather it's Friday. What am I going to be doing? I'm going out for dinner with my friend, but then like I'll be watching Netflix for the rest of the night because that's who I am. And I can embrace that. Like, I'm not going to go out to a club and get drunk or like do all these other things. Like, this is who I
But
am.
that'll look better on Instagram, Liana.
Netflix and chill.
They both work. You're being authentic. Being authentic is definitely what it's about. I mean, you know it might open doors, yeah, like it might open doors, but if you're really going to make it somewhere and have a lasting relationships and really make an impression, you're right, at the end of the day, if there's no content behind, like I look at it, I guess from like a Kabbalistic Jewish point of view, the body is a vessel, is a vehicle, a vessel and a vehicle. It's a way for your inner energy, your soul, to do good things in the world, to make an impact, to make a difference. But when you confuse the outer vessel for what it's containing, then you just remind me of this like story. I love this story. In the Talmud, this ancient book, there's the rabbis were close with the Roman elite, and the emperor or someone very high up, Hadrian, one of them, his daughter would have conversations with the top rabbis just about intellectual ideas, and one of them asked him. He was very ugly. He was like a very, I guess it just says it straight up in the Talmud. He was not a very good looking person externally. And she said, "How could such incredible wisdom and and genius and be in such a body, in such a person? Why would God do that?" So he was smart, and he said, she's pretty blunt. He said, I'll answer you later, but can you answer me a question? Your father keeps all of his wine in clay vessels, kind of ugly vessels. Why don't you take out the wine and put it in something more royal, like a golden vessel or a silver vessel? She said, Rabbi, you're right. And she ordered her servants to do that. So later he left, and when the king came back and he asked for some wine and tasted it, it was disgusting because the gold from the jug, it's not made to hold wine, it seeped into the wine and made it taste bad. So he said, who did this? And of course, blame the Jews. She said, it was the rabbi. So the rabbi comes back and he said, what's the meaning of this? He said, sir, I was just trying to answer your daughter's question. She asked how such beauty it could be in such a vessel. I showed her that when you make the vessel more important than the contents that it's holding, then it ruins the contents inside. Meaning, if it's all about the external, if it's all about that, and if you're so focused on the out and you don't work on inner character, like developing your inner self, then the inner self gets affected badly. The overall person doesn't reach their potential. So she was also smart, and she said, okay, but I have a little objection. You have a friend, a colleague, a rabbi who's incredibly good looking. His name is Rabbi Yochanan. He was like, they say he would light up a room when he walked in, whatever that means. And how could that be then? Did he ruin his inside? And he said he would have been even greater if he didn't have this test of being beautiful or good looking. So I don't know. I just thought of that story.
Really beautiful. Wow, I've never heard that before.
I mean, it's a good thing to, it's okay to be take care of your outer self, as long as we realize, I guess, that it's not the main. It's more of a channeling. Like if you look at somebody from the outside and you say, "Oh, I understand that person," it's like, no, you don't. Like, they're outside, but there's so much more to them than what you just saw. So, um, yeah, we got to put that on a Project Heal campaign right there.
Definitely.
The jugs of wine. Um, so, what would you, getting down to like the nitty gritty, like what would you advise someone if they're going through this, or they know somebody who's going through this? Um, I guess on a few levels, like on a basic day-to-day level, and then on a bigger macro, like in ways to help fix this problem or what they're going through.
Yeah, I would definitely say early intervention is key. The sooner it's treated, the easier it is to get better. So knowing the signs and the symptoms, again, it's not just drastic weight loss. Sometimes the most severe cases, they're at a normal weight, but their heart could be failing.
Mm.
Look for the signs and symptoms. On the National Eating Disorder Association, they have like a list of everything. But I think the most drastic things for me, which people began to realize, was isolation, just avoiding all social interactions. And that was because I was afraid that people were going to ask me to eat. And also, I just didn't really want to talk to anyone. I was so self-absorbed and constantly thinking about food, weight, calories. But that was just like, again, it's about control. It was about controlling those things, but it was really on a deeper level, controlling things that I felt like were out of my control in my life. I think having a support system, whether it's a friend, a family member, a therapist, a teacher. Those were some of my biggest supporters when I was going through this. My dog was a huge one. Find someone that I wouldn't say so much understands, because it can feel very lonely and isolating for someone that has not been through this to really understand what you're going through. But I think it's our job and our responsibility to let them know and teach them and train them in the ways that, like, if something's not helpful, you need to vocalize that. And I think like that is something that I had to learn in my recovery, is that I need to ask for what I need. I think that there there are great resources out there as far as treatment, whether it's you need a higher level of care, so you need to go to a residential treatment center, or it can be something where you're just checking in with a treatment team, a therapist, a nutritionist, a psychiatrist once a week. I think the biggest thing for me and my best piece of advice is your eating disorder is not who you are. It wasn't like you didn't choose to have an eating disorder, but you can choose recovery. And I think that it is a conscious decision you have to make every single day when you wake up, to a point where I don't choose it. It's just my life now. But it took me years and years to get there. And I think that's also something, like, just because you follow your meal plan 100% for a year doesn't mean that it got any better. Just gain the amount of weight you need to doesn't mean it got any better. I think when I was actively trying to recover and doing everything I needed to do, that was the hardest part. And it's kind of a fake it till you make it, where it's going to suck. Recovery sucks more than actually having an eating disorder, because you're doing the one thing that you don't want to do. But it does get better. And it's also taking all those like predisposed, like anxiety, depression, perfectionism, like if you look at Project Heal and everyone that's involved in volunteering for us, and just like the whole community, the people who recover from eating disorders are so successful. And that's because they've learned to channel that energy into something for good.
Wow.
And Christina and I kind of joke sometimes that Project Heal is anorexia gone good. It's what fueled us. It's what replaced our eating disorder. And I think that's really important. You need to find something that is going to fill that void that has been there for a number of years, because it was something that I missed.
You literally touched, I mean, the wisdom in that applies to like everything. Like anybody who's struggling with anything, what you said, I think is a wisdom that is like a universal thing, because we, first of all, any negative energy that we have, which we all have, these like things we're battling, is not a one day thing that you just fix. It's literally like a lifetime. Every day is a new struggle. You might get better at it and more, get stronger, but every day is a new like battle to elevate your good side and to like deal with your negativity. Like it's like a muscle. It's a daily practice. That's one thing I think it's totally on about literally anything someone's going through, from alcohol to self-esteem. Like you got to be filling your mind every day with like the right ideas. Otherwise your mind can get into another place. Like it's kind of empty. You have to fill it with what you want it to be. And then the idea you said about, not only is it something most people think, oh, I hope I can just cure it and get to level. You're saying by dealing with these issues, you can actually take that energy and it can catapult you in a good place. It's really a very, I guess, like Jewish mystical idea that I always learn about is this idea that not only when you take your negative side are you able to just get to square one, but you can take all that, like that kind of passion and energy that can go into negative things. If you can channel it and find direction or any type of purpose, it'll catapult you like much higher than before. So that's a real incentive to like deal with it. It's not like just to take control, but you're able to like take yourself to another level through dealing with it. That's really cool. It's awesome. So wrapping up, I mean, first of all, how can people get more involved and find out more?
Definitely. So on our website, theprojectheal.org, we have an area where it says get involved. And we have opportunities all the time for either to start a chapter, to join a chapter, to become a national ambassador, to become just a volunteer. We're always looking for volunteers, whether it's graphic art or social media. We're really into having people involved and having them share their passion. So we're always open to even people pitching like, I want to do this for you. We don't really turn people away. And then like us on social media, I think that we have a really, really good presence on Facebook and Instagram, especially, where we just provide inspirational posts. Again, it's not just for people with eating disorders, it's for anyone that's struggling that just kind of needs a daily like boost of inspiration. I think we do a really good job of that.
Adding good to social media is definitely needed. I even saw there's some celebrities that are endorsing you and are into your stuff, which is really cool. That's amazing.
That we have great supporters, and they're just able to help us get our message to the people that need to hear it.
They probably have it in Hollywood even more than what we're going through, that type of magnifying glass. I just want to commend you for taking what was a negative or was a big challenge in your life and not only dealing with it, but taking that experience and using it to help others. Because I think if everyone listening can recognize that the things that happen to us, I heard a line, it says, life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. Like, we should take the challenges and the things that are coming our way and not say, why me, but maybe it's in order for you to feel something or connect with something and take that knowledge to help others with it, which you've done to the nth degree. So very inspiring.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.